Hello and welcome to New Junction. And if you're watching this on the evening of the premiere, good evening. Right, straight on with the progress. As you can see with the canopy, since last time, it's now been painted white. This is now drying in situ. It's probably had 3 coats. For the painting, I used the Halford's white primer, as you can see here. Nice and easy. Put it in my spray box and then gave it three odd coats, I'd say, and that's just drying nicely. I've also made a few other tweaks which I'll take you in for a closer look and I'll show you now. Otherwise it's looking the part. So to run you through a few things I've done to the canopy since the last video. Obviously it's now white, particularly the back end just off camera. There's also a few little niggles I've tidied up, so the blue fascias now at the front are now stuck to the main framing, and also the lengths have been trimmed. The rear portion is still to be done, but I'm going to address that once the 2 main rooftops are done, because then that'll go in and out depending on what space is left. Right, so if I move you to the left following my new class 90. Now at this end it's still drying from the paint, as you'd imagine. I've knocked the odd piece, so this bit for example needs to be restuck, but all the rest is solid and just drying nicely. These need some framing trimming, so the lengths in between, just so they don't catch, and then they'll line up well with the first half. But overall, I'm really pleased with how this is going. It's just all the small things. But this will allow me, once it's dry, to be able to get on with the coverings over the top, which will give it A, strength, and B, I suppose, hide the skeleton look. But otherwise, it's coming on as expected. So once dry, the idea for the main canopy is I've got this plastic sheet. Now this is quite thick. I didn't want to go for something too flimsy because once it's stuck down, I didn't want it to warp in the future. So this is quite thick plastic, but just pliable enough that it will bend around the canopy. Once that's on, I have some scale model scenery printed sheet. This is just sort of corrugated roof. And that will go on in the various places. I've got some window glue, so hopefully that'll smooth out nicely and hopefully not get any bubbles. So we'll see how that goes. The first thing will be to get this to stick to the frame, and that'll give it some real rigidity, which will be quite good. So as you can see, the class 20s are away along with the railhead treatment train. The class 68 is away, and as you can probably hear, all the trains have now stopped running. This can only mean one thing: glue is coming out on the layout, and therefore we're going to continue with some groundwork. Now I'm very keen with this series to keep the progress going no matter the cost. I want to try and bring you frequent, regular updates, no matter what. No time off for this project.
Rich?
Yeah?
I know it's short notice, but would it be possible to have next Saturday off? I've got a birthday to go to.
No.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that. Can't get the staff. Right, while the ballast work is being done, I'm going to take off one of the canopy tops and see if we can get it covered. So what I've got here is one of the first sections of arch. Now, the tricky part to this is going to be to stick the plastic sheet to the top. Now, because I've gone for a thicker piece, because I want it to add strength to the structure, it's not going to be as easy to stick down. However, if it was thinner, if it sticks down easier, but then it might sag in between, and I can't risk that really. So I've gone for this. So the starting point is to just size it up. I'm not going to stick it on this way because there'd be too much tension on the sheet, and it just doesn't quite fit. However, this way there will be a bit of off-cutting, but at least I can get it straight and tidy it up at the end. So the first things first, obviously the blue end is the front. I'm going to get that lined up, and then I'm going to add beads of glue to the first 3, as that's what it covers, and then go from there. Using some rocket card glue, I'm just going to go over the edges of the first 3 arches, being very careful to make sure there's glue on the very tips, because these are the hardest bits to get to stick. So as you can see, also I've got it propped up as well, just to raise the edges, the ends off the base. This gives me a bit more flexibility when trying to get the plastic to stick. Now the first stage is to line the plastic up with the very front, because that's the only edge you really want to be quite neat. And I'm going to use clothes pegs, preferably not ones covered in rocket card glue, so you've got to make sure there's none on there before we start clamping it on. So I'm using some clothes pegs, and I'm going to lightly stick this on. It will of course move a little bit, but I'm going to try and keep the movement to as minimum as possible, just so it doesn't smudge too much. We will be going over these lines to cover the glue at a later stage. So the first step is to place the plastic up. Remember, we can cut it down later. I'm just going to make sure that's lined up with the front. Peg the first one on, and roll it round. Peg the second one on. Right, so that's now stuck. I've also moved it just to double check it's not stuck to the box underneath, which is probably would have been the case knowing my luck. A couple of things to note: the hairdryer does help speed the glue on to stick faster. It also helps mould the shape, as I said. Another thing, by leaving or going the long way with the acrylic sheet, it does allow you to be able to put things on the end, such as these 2 pegs, which just add a bit of weight to the end to help pull it taut against the edges of the canopy, which will be invaluable later on. I suppose going forward as well, we can snip this off when it's done and make it look more tidy. Right, I'm now going to let this dry properly, so this will be drying overnight, and then I'll be getting on with the next piece. So it's a nice and slow project, but I want it to be solid. Right, so we're a couple of days later. I've just stuck down this end. Now while that's drying, I'm going to get on with a few extra jobs, such as cutting out more of this sheet, so it's all ready to start being applied to the top once it's dry. While we're also waiting for this to dry, I'm going to move on to doing some of the groundwork in front of the station, maybe some of the boundary work. I might put in a fence, and we'll see what that leaves in terms of what we can fill in with the scenery, see if we can come up with any small dioramas. But at this stage, I'm fairly hopeful. I've never done it before, obviously, and it's just about having a go. So at this stage, I have no idea what this is going to become. So as long as it looks all right from a distance, we'll be okay. So right, on to the next job. Now, for those who are interested, before I get on with cutting it out, I'm using the Scale Model Scenery sheet, and this is the TX 11900. And it's the corrugated industrial unit panelling, and it's the light grey version, so all being well, that'll look quite good on the rooftop. So let's get on with cutting it out. Right, so I'm using this cheeky gap in work just to have a play with the trains again. But the next phase is to do more line-side fencing. So as you can see on this side, adding the fence has given me opportunity to create small little dioramas, which just create points of interest on the layout. So now it's time to do this section. So it's probably just over 2.5 feet, this space, and I'm going to be adding in a line-side fence. Now the fence I'll be adding is the same as before. It's the part of the Wills Modern range, and it's the modern fencing, and the code is SSM317. So that'll be put in a moment. Same again, track pin drill, and you just go to town with it. Easy peasy, bit of rocket car glue, and away we go. Now, where to put the fence? Obviously I have a blank platform side here. I'm not going to be putting the fence up to that, because I want to give the impression that years gone by there was probably an old platform here with some track. So the perimeters won't have changed, but the actual track's long gone. So I'm actually going to bring the fence forward, and it's going to probably start here and go along this sort of route, giving the impression with the blank space that there used to be a line going to this platform. So that'll be here, and then coming up here. So that does provide some area of interest for line side debris, places to put sort of general line side scrap, etc. But then on this side, we can sort of go to town and make another sort of mini diorama from this little section, and another point of interest, which is quite nice because the station as a scene is quite big, but it is a bit generic. So it's nice to have these little areas of details which we can then be a bit creative with. Right, so I'm now going to get this unpacked, and we'll start getting the fence in place. And there we go. You can see the fence is now in. As I wanted, you can see that the fence obviously sweeps in, but then there's a gap here, and then it just gives the impression that there probably once was something here. It's been taken up for efficiencies, so it's a nice touch, and it gives me something else to fill in. Right, for those of you keen-eyed viewers just there, you saw I used my drill rather than the hand drill. That's because I snapped my small drill piece, and I want to get on now. I don't want to wait till tomorrow when I have to go to the shops to get another drill bit, so I'll just use the point of a bigger drill bit, which is enough to get the fence post into the board. So there we are. Right, now the paper's cut and the fence is now gluing. Let's go and see how the canopy's getting on. And there we go. As you can see, the first part of the canopy has now got its acrylic top. This does add the required rigidity, so I can move it around quite freely now without worrying about breaking it. As you can probably tell, looking at the rest of the canopy, it's going to take a while to coat the rest in the acrylic sheet, but I will endeavour to get that done for the next video. Hopefully once that's done and we can sit the canopy on properly, there'll be certain other areas we can fill in, so there will be certain gaps in between the arches, here and here sort of thing. We will cover those with some sort of horizontal pieces and blend the whole thing in. So there's a plan in my head. Whether I can make it come to, we'll see, but slowly but surely we're getting there, and I'm really pleased. In terms of the canopy progress this week, I'm going to leave it at this, and then off camera I'm going to get on and coat the rest in the acrylic sheet. As one of the last jobs I'm going to do for this video and this week, I'm just going to continue the ballast on the inside of the fence here, up to where the end of the fence is, just to sort of continue it up, and then as you'll see, that'll start to complete the scene going forward. So that's where you're going to leave me, and as you can see, it's really starting to come together now. There we are. As you can see, the scene is now slowly filling in. The ballast to the left here really starts to fill in the very base of the scenery. Now obviously that leaves a lot of room for a lot of detail, but it's just coming on nicely. And the first part of the canopy in the distance there, that'll soon come together quite nicely, I think. So the goal is for next week to have the whole thing covered in the plastic roof. How far I'll get on with that, we will find out, but I've got to get it out of the way now. I've started. It doesn't feel like much has happened, but in the same breath it feels like a lot's happened. But as ever, I'm going to finish this video here for you, because I feel like it's been going on forever, but I'm going to continue straight away with the next one. So thank you very much for everyone who's watching. I'm really enjoying these mini-series, and if you're watching the premiere, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care, guys. Bye.